Well, hello, it's Susan at Seaside Stitches, and I've been waiting to have enough energy to tell you how wonderful the gathering was that I went to with my sister Lesley, and it was at wherever it was, Cleckheaton Golf Club. It was a ticketed event. It was wonderful. It was so gloriously full of colour, and it was so gloriously full of wonderful people. And I just had a face ache, I had headache with concentrating and smiling and laughing and engaging with people and soaking up the atmosphere. It was awesome. And I'm really not exaggerating at all. It was awesome. And I did manage to take my bag. And this is as bright as the evening went. It was bright and it was colourful and it was speckly and it was florally and it was all sorts of things. It was spotty. It was really vibrantly coloured, and the people's dresses and outfits were just stunning, and the people were stunning, and the golf club and and their food and their attitude was stunning. And the DJ, well, it was okay once our Lesley had a word with him, but there you go. Yes, so what am I going to tell you? I'm going to tell you that during the day, I've got this, I need to set it in some kind of context, don't I? So we set off, and I met my sister at the Tickle Trout service bit at Preston, and we drove off to go. What was really lovely, we'd planned that we would go what we used to have been my mum's way. So my mum lived in Bury. I lived in Blackpool at the time for some time. Our Lesley lived in Warrington for some time. My other sister, Julie, lives in Lancaster. She wasn't coming on the trip with us. And but we all used to go on this same route over to see my mum, which was, up the M65, go over Haslingden Grain. It doesn't matter if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just a wiggly road through the countryside. Sometimes it gets quite barren over there and a little bit wistful. And then picking up a bypass at Haslingden, which takes you then onto the M66, which kind of bypasses Bury, but takes you into Bury if that's where you want to go, where at one time both my sisters used to live, and my mum and dad used to live, but not all merged together. But anyway, but we used to get off that motorway at the Bury Junction, the Heap Bridge Junction, and go and see my mum. And there were lots of memories in just doing the trip, because we've done it a couple of times since, but my mum passed away in 2019, but she came to live with us just at the beginning of 2018, and we cared for her while she had dementia. She did go in some respite care homes, and she was going to go in permanently, but each time they weren't suitable, and there were a number of safeguardings that we had to take out. So there's another backstory, one of Susan's other backstories. But it was an ongoing process of trying to help my mum live well with dementia, live independently with dementia, which she had done for the 6 years before that, since my dad had died. And she'd had really an incredible experience at her daycare centre, which she thought was the local fancy social club that she got dressed up for. And it was awesome, really. So lots of lovely memories flooded back on our journey. And then just going up the M66 and turning just left, it was so simple, just bearing left onto the M62, and we stayed on there till junction 25 when we went to our hotel. So all that bit was really quite good. And then we knew we were like 4 hours early or 3.5 hours early before check-in. So we had a little plan, which we went in to use the facilities. And whilst in there, just asked about which taxi firms they used, because we wanted to book a taxi in for 7 o'clock, because that's when it started. But we didn't want to wait till we checked in at 3 o'clock, because, well, you never know, there may have been dozens of people who were staying there who were also going to the gathering, and we didn't want to be taxied out so that there was no taxi for us. So at 11:30 we rang our taxi and booked it. As it happened, I think there were only us in there that actually were going to the gathering, because we tried nearer ones quite close to when they announced the tickets. We tried the one that was just round the corner from the golf club, and we tried a couple further out, but we couldn't get in. They were all full. So something else was going on, because they weren't all, these big hotels with the people weren't all at the Cleckheaton Golf Club having a good do. So anyway, we did get our taxi booked then, and then we chatted to the receptionist and said we're not quite sure where to go. My husband had worked on Brighouse Market, or as we say, Brighouse. So he used to work on Brighouse Market on a Wednesday. He was the key man there for a long time, but this is in the 70s. So we thought Lesley and I would have a little trip into Brighouse and just suss it out and see if the market was still there. Because the thing I remembered most was they had what they call a fish shop, a wonderful fish shop. Now, what we call in Bury and Rochdale are chip shops. They tend to call them fish shops. So anyway, it was a chippy. It was a lovely chippy, and it had dark golden brownish golden batter when we used to get it and whatever. Anyway, because sometimes I played hooky and went with Alan to the market to stand there. Anyway, that's when I worked shifts and I could do that really. So lots of waving my hands about as I'm getting excited. So we were going to go and have a look at Brighouse, and she said there's a lot of construction there at the moment. I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but have you been to Halifax? Now, I thought she'd said Peace Place, and I thought it was called the Peace Centre or the Peace Square, but I couldn't actually remember, and I think we put Peace Place in our sat-nav. And we did get taken by sat-nav to Halifax in the most wondrous way, in going a third back the way that we'd come to get off the motorway again, to come a third way back to go under and over, and saw some lovely steeples and things that one was leaning, and the factories and the buildings were amazing. And then we rose out of the valley, and then we went round again, and we went, oh, it was a marvellous trip. But we were just in this really residential area, which told me to go up Parkinson Street or whatever, and then turn right, and then go up, turn left, and then we ended up at the top of this hill in a housing estate at Peace Place, which was like 5 houses in a cul-de-sac. But we didn't want that, so we turned round and readjusted ourselves sat-nav wise, and we were then taken to the lovely Halifax Centre, which was so simple, so easy, but we did come by the Parkinson Street, so I had been in the right area, and it would have already also taken us to all that jumbled up where we went, and this diversion and that diversion, as far as Parkinson Street was. So we didn't go too far out of our way, really. And then, so it directed us, and the lady and the receptionist at the hotel had mentioned the Woolshop car park, which stuck in our minds, which was attached to Marks and Sparks, M&S. So we put that in the sat-nav, and we don't have a sat-nav. I mean, you know, she put it on her phone in maps, and it took us. And that directed us into Halifax Centre, and then we went on the car park, no issues, could nip into the loo at M&S, and then we had a little explore. And I will pop a couple of pictures in, because we wanted to kind of stay with this frugal kind of local idea that we'd had. So we went into the main market. Now we are products of markets, because our parents were market traders, and I worked on the markets with and separate from Alan, selling fabric at one point. But so we're very interested in markets and what they're doing to markets, and how markets are progressing or regressing and things like that. So we went in this market, Halifax Borough Market, and they had scaffolding all up, and apparently there is a massive clock tower, massive as in, it's a tall top, you'll see. Halifax Market, oh, obviously having a refresh. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Did he carry it for you? Put it in here, did he carry it for you?
There's a clock tower, but it had all scaffolding around it so you couldn't see, but there's a huge dome, a wonderful, it's just lovely. I shall show you the pictures. Wow, secret clock in there. You might not think it's lovely, but to us it's great to have something that's traditional. That is what our Lesley terms as an essential market. So it's not been made into a community space with lots of bars and a bit of a music venue here, or a community this or that. It's not been made into a separate craft market, which are lovely, but they're not necessarily essential markets. So this one had butchers. It had, what was so funny was we went into this little cafe, maybe Borough Market Cafe, I'm not sure. And Lesley had scrambled eggs, I had a tea cake, and well, anyway, it really doesn't matter, except that as we sat down, there were only about seven seats or something like that, 5 tables maybe. As I sat down, I was facing 3 stalls ahead of me on a corner. I was facing a big gutterman's cabinet and I could see haberdashery at the back of it. So I pointed that out to Lesley. She said, we'll go and have a look while we're waiting. So I went and had a look. Took a teeny weeny video of me stood in front of a gutterman's. So, come to Halifax Market to get something to eat, but look what I found. A haberdashery and fabric place display, and then came back, and then as I looked up the market, I could see a Redmond's. Now, if you are Lancashire people, or possibly if you're Lancashire people or Manchester people or Yorkshire people, you would know that Redmond's meant kind of fresh groceries, not green groceries, but you'd get your boiled ham and you'd get your corned beef, and and most Redmonds, the Redmonds I was used to, was my grandma was a mill worker, and her sisters and her sister-in-laws were also mill workers, and they would meet on a Saturday morning, and they would meet at Redmond's in Bury Market, and quite often I stayed over with my grandma, and she would take me to Redmond's, and I had to get up on one of these tall stools. What's this got to do with the gathering, Susan? Never mind, I'll come to that. Just whiz on if you want to know. But the memories that come back of me sitting there, having to be hoisted onto this tall stool at the bar, you know what I mean, bar, counter at Redmond's, and ordering Horlicks and dropping in sugar lumps or eating sugar lumps. Oh, amazing. And just warmth and loveliness, and knowing that when I was in the Bury Market, I would turn around and see the ladybird stall, which didn't sell ladybirds. It was ladybirds clothes for children, but beautiful vests and really nice t-shirts. And we weren't very well off, so it was lovely that my grandma was there, and she wasn't very well off either, but she set a lot of store in wearing clean vests and bright white socks and white vests. And in washing facilities in those days, you shoved everything in your hot point and you hoped it gurgled it about a bit, and then it would come out. But if you'd put something, you might have dropped something a bit dark in it, then you had grey socks and grey vests. Right, that bit of reminiscing is over. So then we left there, and we had a little wander through the streets, and we did spot the entrance, and there were loads of lovely eating places and bistros and kind of a cultural quarter, and then there was also the normal everyday shops that you see in each town you go into. And then we saw the entrance to the Peace Square. Now, I thought, although I'd seen it on the TV and I'd had it explained to me that it was about fabric, that's why it's relevant. It's spelt Piece, which is why we went to the wrong place, because we went to a piece spelt the other way. Anyway, so apparently the people would go there and trade fabric. They would trade small amounts of fabric, and these were all weighed up and the cost. So there's a little room with a video that explains some of that, and I think Lesley took some photos of the saying on the wall, so I'll try and get that off her and put it in. I'll insert it. But what I'm trying to say is, it was the whole day was interesting, even leading up to just before we went. You know, it wasn't just, well, we got there, we kind of got our hairbrushes out, we put our frocks on and we went. It was really meaningful personally to both of us separately and jointly. So it was really lovely. And then and while we'd been there to just nip into the hotel, we'd nipped to the restaurant next door and booked a table for 4 o'clock, not 4 people. We weren't just going to go and gather 2 people off the streets and bring them in. So, but we knew that we would be better to have something that we could both tolerate, because both of us have some issues at the moment. So, and then we weren't restricted to whatever may be given to us at the night do. And I'm not being picky, and it was lovely food at the night do. But it's better. Sometimes you've got to choose wellness, haven't you? So you've got to eat the things that you know that will help you keep well, rather than risk the only thing you can have is something that won't make you feel well, keep well. So it was lovely. So we had another natter about that, and it's so different nattering face to face while you're having something to eat than sat in the car. And it just was lovely. And the getting ready was, we had plenty of time. We worked it all out. We got our taxi. We got in there. But in the middle of this, I had been scrolling at what was on at the Read Good Gathering Instagram page. And there was a comment there from at Debbie Sows, and she wasn't commenting to me. She was just saying she was going to be on her own. And Donna had put to her, well, once you get here, you won't be on your own. I'll see you on the dance floor. And then after that, I'd seen an announcement that Donna couldn't come. So knowing that Debbie Sows was known to me only because when I went to a drumming event, I'm a samba drummer, and I was a samba drummer. Too hard on my shoulders, too hard on my fingers now. But this year we've given it up. So we'd gone to a fundraising thing that we were promoting by drumming outside and encouraging the community and members who were coming in to this event to engage with us in whatever fashion they wanted to. And then we'd gone to get some food. And while I was in there chatting with my friends, colleagues, whatever, and someone called across from the counter, where do I know you from? Oh, you are Seaside Stitches. I watch you on your channel. And so she came over and we had a little chat. This is a year ago, or almost, or about. We had a little chat, and then I talked about when we were coming meeting again, and she lives in Skelmersdale, and so Skelmersdale and Blackpool, it's all different. It's just serendipity that we met in Wigan, and it was lovely. And I followed her, and she followed me on Instagram or whatever, YouTube. And then not for a while, because I've not been active. I'm not very active on Instagram anyway, but then not for a while. So I'd spotted her name, so I messaged her and said that, and we'd exchanged a couple of messages. So she'd let me have her phone number, but I'd not responded to that. Don't know why, it took me a year to do it. So I just let her know we were staying in the Huddersfield North, and did she want, if she was on her own and she wanted to, we would be there. So, and this was my number if she wanted to contact us. So that was that bit. So, right, we go into the gathering. First of all, we're trapped in the car park. The car park man doesn't know where to send us. He can get in the car. He tries to get in at the exit. He couldn't get in. So he came through the barrier. But then we only found out later that he was then trapped in because he didn't have the code to get out. But never mind that one. So we had to walk all around the building because we couldn't find an entrance. And so we did it anyway. And as we were walking around the building, who should come out but Christine from Gemini Stitcher, her sister-in-law Sharon, who runs the Millhouse event where we hold our socials, Steph, who is one of our attendees at the social, and they had all gone together and were staying in Airbnb together. So we bumped into them on the car park as we're walking around, and they had met someone else who had come alone and had gone to introduce themselves to her in the car park. So we went in as a kind of a parade of women, mostly in pink. I wasn't meant to be in pink. I didn't get my blue jacket finished in time, but I wore a pink jacket. But anyway, so as we walked in, we were greeted by Sam at Frugalissima and Ali at Fimbers. I shall write in my description box anybody I mention who has a tag not wearing a tag on their ankle, you know what I mean, who has a channel or an Instagram account, because I can't remember everybody and I don't want to miss anybody out. So if I've missed you out in speaking about you, I will have listed you below, or if I didn't know your name. Anyway, never mind. So we walked in, and it was all a bit of a, wasn't a kerfuffle exactly, but those three were in the party together. They were introduced to us. We followed in, and the first person I looked across at was someone smiling with their beautiful blue eyes at me and a beautiful smile, and it was Debbie, and she was sat at a table with another really attractive woman as well. And yes, so that's kind of how it started. There were already people there, which was lovely. We got met by Sam. She explained that there's a ticket, you stick it on your dress, that's your number. If someone wants to vote for you, if the people's choice, if someone chooses to vote that number, they just write that number on their ticket and put it in whatever. And that's that. And that's what you do if you want to vote for someone else. So that was as easy as that was. And then we went over and chatted I introduced Debbie to Lesley, and she introduced, it was Nicky, but I couldn't remember her name. I didn't know I knew her name until I looked on Instagram and realised I had from the beginning of the evening. Anyway, and so we hung about them, and there were chairs behind us. We asked if we could use them. So we ended up as a little four. And then I looked round, and Deb from Deb's Made This was there. And I was decided I wouldn't be such a fangirl, because when I met Nadia at Christine's Sewing Social, I was a little bit like following her about, and I thought, I'm not going to be a fangirl. But I did go up and hold the frame to her, and I just went, I'm not going to be such a fangirl tonight. But she was so lovely with me. And she also told me that she's also made a catch-all caddy bag and watched my sew along for it. And I helped her make the decision to definitely buy the By Annie stiletto. I'm not on commission. Anyway, I'm going to pause because I think I'm going to run out of steam and perhaps faint on the floor. So I'll pause my video just to check it has been recording, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we're in there, and we've got Debs is around, and she's chatted to people, and she was looking for a chair, and by this time there weren't any chairs to be had around us, so we shared a chair. so she sat for a little while. I went off just meandering and nosing about and just chatting to people, and like Nadia, hi Nadia, do you want to come on this with me? And I saw Judi. I saw Judi from Running So and So. I spotted her come in, and I thought, oh no, I'm not going to. You won't know me, but I do watch your channel, and I'm so and so, and this, and you look amazing, and da da da. I love your channel, blah 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 blah. And she was like, okay, thank you very much. But just as natural and as beautiful as she is on her videos. I'm going to pause just because I want to say it's gone really warm in here. It's been one of those freak couple of days. It's been absolute. I'm not exaggerating, but I was very near to crying with cold. We went out the other day, and I chose completely the wrong outfit. And it's really bad, isn't it? And he was saying, yes, it is. It's really bad. So we just nipped in a shop, and we came back up. Anyway, I wore the same clothes yesterday. We went to Kendal. The sun came out. It was like, and I had black tights on. And yes, anyway. So I'm just having a warm moment now. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to open the door. I think I'm going to have to sit down for the next bit. Now, I just met some lovely people, and we had a lovely dance, and I love the freedom of being able to dance. I don't care who's watching. You know, there's a saying, sing like no one's listening and dance like no one's watching. And for me, I dance like no one's watching. I don't give a monkeys. I absolutely love to dance, and I love watching other people loving to dance. And there is a little video, and I've had to swap the music out because one was ABBA, where I'm in and out dancing in front of my sister, and it won't let me have ABBA because of copyright. And one was some kind of, I'm going to use the generic term, pop music, and we were all boogieing to, and lots of swivelling about from lots of people, and it was beautiful. And I've had to just transfer a free tune from the iMovie catalogue that you don't pay for, you don't have to announce that you've used it, and that's it. So that's what you've got instead. But remarkably, you know, I've chose the one with the right beat, so that's good. So anyway, yeah, it was just the chat. It was just lovely. The getting up and dancing, the laughter, the interaction, the jokey bits from Sam and from Ali. And I spotted this really tall woman. Couldn't think who she was at all, but I did get my photo took with her. You'll see at the end. Maybe you'll know who it is. But I thought, well, you know, she's obviously lonely. She keeps standing there waiting for people to go up and stand with her. So I did that too. No, I did have a little chat to her. It was lovely. I think you'll know what I mean when you see the photograph. And I didn't get a photo with Sam or with Ali, not that I know of. But if it turns up, if you spot one, please tag me on it. Tag me into it. I did. Oh, Lesley. It was very nice having Lesley because she was my personal photographer. And yes, she captured quite a few things. So I have to have a mention because I loved it. So I was sat with Debbie. I was sat with Debbie at Debbie Sews. I was sat with Nicky, and I don't know if she's Snip and Sew or Sew and Snip. It was just what was really good. We were just chit-chatting, and it turned out kind of we've all got backstories, and we were sharing stories, not just me going blah, 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 like I'm doing now. But like our Leslie's bits of sewing history, and someone had bought Lesley has a grandson and a granddaughter who go around and they do a bit of sewing at hers. And Nicky had said that she'd bought her granddaughter a sewing machine at Christmas, and she likes to make bags. And it was just really nice chat about really nice sewing related things that weren't boring at all to us, all of us, because it's relevant. And wanted to know which pattern people had used, and how lovely and vibrant Debbie's dress, the fabric was for Debbie's dress and the style of it. And Nicky had made this, she'd had a strap and a section of the embroidery that was on a frill at the bottom. She'd appliqued it up across the front and up the strap, and it was beautiful. I won't go where everybody is. I shall write it in my description box below. So, but Nicky, I didn't realise it was Nicky. We were told at some point someone had come as far as Devon and somewhere else in Scotland and somewhere else. Well, Nicky was the one who come from Devon. Wow. So that was awesome. And we'd only come from over the hill, which an hour and a half or something. I'm going to have to sit down. So I lost a piece of footage yesterday where I just wanted to share, in which I shared the enthusiasm. Oh, and now I'm going to sneeze. This is what happens. Anyway, this morning I've been editing as far as I'd got, so I hope you're enjoying the video. I know I've gone a bit rambly, but to me, I just wanted to be real and set it in the context in which it happened. So it's just been it was a lovely day, and I hope I've conveyed that to you. And the evening was just remarkable, really, and the pleasure that both Lesley and I got just from the event. It was lovely. So I was sharing seats with Debbie from Deb's Made This, and then she'd come back, and then I would go somewhere, and anyway, it doesn't really matter, none of that. But towards the end of the evening, as people had danced and some people were going and some people were moving into the other room, then we ended up with a little table of 4 or 5, and I was speaking to Sue, and I feel like you already know who Sue is because I already spoke about her once on this video, on the yesterday's video. So anyway, I apologise for my depleted energy. I am so enthusiastic, but today it's difficult to come back to it and kind of keep that peak experience and share it with you as it was. But what happened was, I had a chat to a lady in the dining room, and we're just commenting on her top and how lovely she looked. And she said that she'd made it from, she'd made a top. It was a dark top with red flowers on it, and it had been her daughter, the dress that she'd worn for her daughter's graduation, and she had upcycled it or reduced it in size to being a top that she was wearing over trousers. And it just was lovely also that that was another meaningful outfit. You know, it wasn't about everyone just going and buying the most expensive fabric and finding the most, I can't think what the word is, but it was just lovely to know another real story. And I think that's what I was trying to say before, that we were kind of sharing what led us to be there in the first place, and what was meaningful to us about sewing. And I had a brooch on, which I'll just pop a picture in, of my grandma's. I've already spoken to her about her as a mill worker, but anyway, her and my granddad had bought this on holiday when they'd gone to Blackpool once, and it was just a little horseshoe shape with a few different pretend jewels in, and it was the Blackpool Tower with a horseshoe around it anyway. And so that brought us into talking about Blackpool, and Sue was telling me about her and her family just deciding, sort of like there was a winter offer on, I think something like February on the train, that you could go as a family, so many of you, to go to Blackpool from wherever she was going from. I can't remember whether it was Bradford or it was some Yorkshire town where she lives, and they could get on the train and go to Blackpool for a very, very small amount. And that they'd been on the year before, they'd been, and they'd had a lovely day. And this year when they went, sometime in February I think it was, they also went into the Blackpool Tower ballroom, which is quite well renowned. Anyway, it's a beautiful venue, and it's extremely ornate. And if you've ever watched Strictly Come Dancing, then that's what we're talking about when they do the special one at the Blackpool Tower. That's the one. And she was talking about how lovely it had been, and had her grandchildren with her, and her 11-year-old grandson had asked her, "Grandma, would you like to dance?" And just she was whizzing through her phone trying to find this photograph or this little video where they were dancing together. It was so meaningful. It was just so lovely. And that's what I mean about just people sharing snippets of their lives. It was lovely. It was just lovely to be party to that. And yeah, so that was one thing. And then someone was drawn to the fact that they'd seen my bag and then realised it matched my dress, so I must have made it. So they came over and chatted. I had quite a lot of interest in that bag. And we ended up in a table where we had someone called Catherine and someone called, I want to call her Jeanette, but I think she was called Michelle. And she had made her first dress ever, her first garment even. And it was a stunning garment, you know, it was a shirt dress. It was lovely, and the amount of detail, and just to have been able to make that as a first outfit was just stunning. And we just had a bit of a good rapport between her and I and Lesley and Sue and her friend Catherine. So Catherine was wearing something like, it looked very much like a peony dress. We were exchanging things about what we've sewn and what we like sewing and what we don't like, you know. And she was sort of looking at my bag and saying, "Oh, you like me, you like detail, and your stitches are so neat." I'm like, what? And it was really uplifting. It was just uplifting to be able to, none of us were kind of kidding along with each other and going, "Oh, well, I like that, you know, you must have done a good job with that." It was just so real and organic. And I think that's what I loved about it, really. The whole thing was like that. So I just wanted to share that as an example, I think. And someone else I was saying someone came across and was mentioning my bag and wanted to know more about By Annie bags and hadn't heard of them. And I'd get on to doing my spiel. and I'm not an ambassador or anything, but I just love them, and I just love the way that they go together so neatly. There are no raw edges anywhere. Everything is covered up, and they're just a joy to sew. They're a bit of a meaty sew sometimes, and they're a bit hard on the old hands. But yeah, I love them. So it was nice to share that with people, and yeah. So that, I think that's all I need to say, really. It was just a lovely do, and I'm so pleased that we were able to go to it and have that experience and share that experience with others, and like I'm doing now, and have others people's experiences shared back with us. So I know Sam put some a group of photographs of the event on her page, and there are or will be photographs on the Instagram page for a reet good do. I think it's called that. But as I say, I will put things in my description box below. I think I've held you for far too long as it is. If I've missed anything, I'll just add it in the comments. But I just want to say, this is what I've said on my other vlog. I want to thank everyone who went. It was awesome. So Sam at Frugalissima, who was one of the organisers, Ali, who had been on Great British Sewing Bee and does quite a lot of kind of partnership work with Sam, and I think she's called at Thimbers, but it may be something else. But so thank you to Sam, thank you to Ali, thank you to Donna at Size Me Sewing. It's so sad that you couldn't go, but it was a real success, and I want to thank you as well for organising it and being part of the whole thing. There were lots of sponsors, I believe, who gave prizes that were in the little carrier bags that people won. People won things like, there wasn't a catwalk. It was just extremely informal. If you wanted to vote for someone, you went around, looked at people's numbers on them, and then you went away and you wrote your number on your piece of your ticket, and you put it in this box, and that was it. It turned out at the end, those who had the most votes were classed as they were winners in some form or another. Say there was 5 of them and they all had 6 votes. They all went to the front and we looked at, all the ones who'd been voted for more times than others. And then I think there was a draw, because I think one person out of those 5 or 6 went home with a carrier bag with things in from the sponsors, whoever they were. But I only know that Jen from Jen Hogg was from Generates was one of the sponsors. So I didn't know anymore, but those who got prizes like Nadia, so Stitch and Style by Nadia, being a long Instagram name, she won the prize for who's got the longest Instagram name here, and it was her. And so there were prizes for things like that. It wasn't a case of, we want to see the most extreme or the most exclusive or the most anything, really. It was fun. And what can you have but fun, And just, it was meaningful because it was lovely. So I think I've tried to convey that. But anyway, the food was lovely. It was, for the vegetarians, it was cheese and spring onion pie. And you could have veggie gravy and mushy peas, of course. And for the non-veggies, it was a meat pie of some kind, and steak pie, probably. A steak and onion pie, a steak and ale pie, or some kind of pie that smelt very meaty, and mushy peas. But I was surprised that they did chips as well. So you could have pie, chips and peas and gravy. And my son lives in the south now. He lives near London, not far from London, and it's a really strange thing to see people being able to get gravy with the pies, because apparently it's not a thing. Anyway, well, when he lived in Leamington, it wasn't an easy thing to get a pie with gravy anyway. Okay, enough waffling and talking about pies, and I'm going to have to go and have some lunch now. So what I'm wearing is, or what I was wearing yesterday, is a top that I made. It's a True Bias Nico top. It was the first one I made. I made a straightforward size 14. Fit me everywhere. I love it. And it's with fabric from the swaps table at the, I'm going to say the Great British Sewing Bee, at the Northwest Sewing Social that is run by Christine at the Gemini Stitcher. So thank you if you are watching and you donated this fabric on the swaps table. I've really enjoyed sewing it. Yes, I started making it up. I'd been to the social in September, I think, but I only put the last stitches into it about the last day of March. So just to do I'd just not hemmed and put the cuffs, done the cuffs. And the other thing is, this is a McCall's, I'll have to write it in the description box, but it's a shawl cardigan. It's just a McCall's cardigan, whatever. You can do it in a longer version where this comes down longer and you've got more of a longerness. And I only bought the pattern because it has a bolero. So if you look, if you don't use this or the collar and the shawl and the collar that goes around the back, you actually just have a bolero, which is what I wanted the pattern for and which I haven't made yet. You can also have a sleeveless version, like a waistcoat if you like, and I've made that version. Anyway, that's all from me now. Thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you if you've subscribed. Thank you if you've watched. Thank you if you've commented. Thank you for your patience with my commenting, because I'm not very good at getting back to you. I don't think any less of you just because you may not have had a comment back from me. I will get there, and some days are better than others, and sometimes I can just roll them off, but then I can't go back to the ones I've missed. I'll get there. And I hope you don't feel disrespected if you leave me a comment and I don't answer straight away, or I will do it sometime. And a like and a share are always welcome. So thank you ever so much. Lots of love to you all. It's Susan at Seaside Stitches signing off all my blah 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 about. I do that to the children. Shouldn't be doing it to you, should I really? Anyway, signing off with all my gabbing on and on about the gathering. I'm really looking forward to next year. Okay, bye for now. Thank you.